Shalom WJC family. It's time for our weekly Torah talk. We're looking at Parshat Chayei Sarah this week. And as we move forward from the stories of Abraham to the story of Yitzchak, or mostly in this case, the servant Eliezer who goes on Abraham and Yitzchak's behalf to find Rivka, to find a wife for Yitzchak. And after the whole story, once Rivka comes back from the house of Lavan and her parents to the house of Abraham in what is then Canaan, we are told at the beginning of chapter 24 that Abraham was very old, along in years, and that God blessed Abraham bakol. God blessed Abraham in all things. There's a lot of questions about what exactly this means. What does it mean that he was blessed in all things? After all, we know that Abraham had a lot of struggle, right? His wife died. His first son with Hagar has been exiled, although the Midrash speaks a lot about Abraham encountering Ishmael and that they're still in touch. We don't find any evidence of that in the biblical text itself. He has, no relationship as far as we can tell with his son Isaac. They haven't spoken since the Akedah. Isaac is not going to find his own wife. It's questions what's going on there. There's a lot of questions. It seems like he's had a lot of heartache. So what does it mean that God blessed Abraham bakol? There are a lot of commentaries on this. A lot of different commentators. Some of the commentaries, like Ibn Ezra, say that bakol and ben are the same, so that God blessed Abraham with sons. There's Midrash that say God blessed Abraham with a daughter, and the daughter's name was Bakol. Interesting. Ibn Ezra derides this interpretation, says that's crazy. If a girl's name was Bakal, then it would say she was blessed Bib Bakal. There'd be two bets, and he derides it. But there's another line of interpretation, a profound line of interpretation that seeks to answer this same question. What does it mean to be blessed Bakal, especially if we know that bad things are still happening? There's something apparently about blessing does not mean that bad things never happen. And I think that's a modern interpretation. Maybe it's an expectation that if we do everything right, if we're blessed by God, then nothing bad ever happens. But that's not how the world seems to work. So we can draw one of two conclusions. Either there's really no such thing as blessing or being blessed, because if, as it always will, evil and death encroach on our worlds, then we must all be living in curses, in cursed times. Or there's something about being blessed that still allows for evil to exist, that still allows for aging and death and pain and disappointment to be part of our lives, and we can still be blessed. I tend to lean towards the latter one. I think we have to lean towards the latter one. Judaism does not make promises that if we do everything right, that everything will go right in our lives. Judaism seeks to find the blessings in the world, even when the world does not seem to be behaving in the way that we expect it to or feel that we deserve it to. Right? There are blessings amid the darkness. There are blessings amid the manifestation of evil. And the whole concept of Judaism is to pursue those blessings, to bring them forth, to make that light happen. And we find that interpretation in the interpretation of Nachmanides, of the Ramban. The Ramban is one of the very early purveyors of Kabbalah. But he was still of the time, he lives around 1300, and he's still of the ilk that think we can't share, we can't write down these secrets. So within his commentary, in several places, he sort of alludes to these secrets and says, those people who will understand, they'll understand. And he talks about this idea of call, of everythingness, of infinitude, being a sort of upper manifestation of God. Many authors have looked back and said he seems to be talking about the upper sphirot of Kabbalah, sort of the highest manifestations of God. And we know from other writers in Spain who come shortly after him, whom we now call the Geronese Kabbalists, people like Rabbeinu Asher and Isaac the Blind. They talk about sort of this divine allness, a well from which holiness flows down and infuses the earth. And so the Kabbalists say, when we say Abraham was blessed bakal, that he had this access to the upper realms of God. His spiritual life was so rich that even amid the chaos, amid the wars and the famines that he experienced, that he could always find his way to this ultimate manifestation of holiness, that even in witnessing evil in the world, Abraham could find his way to the all, to God, to this well of holiness above. It's a reminder, we say in the morning, the prayer, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam, Yotzer Or Uvorei Choshech. Blessed are you, Lord our God, who Yotzer Or creates light, Uvorei Choshech, and shapes darkness. Yotzer Uvorei Choshech, Oseh Shalom Uvorei Et HaKol, who made peace and created everything. But for the savvy reader, they know that original quote from the prophets, it says, Oseh Shalom Uvorei Et Hara, right? Who makes peace but also created evil. The rabbis didn't want us to have to say that every morning, so we say created Hakol. But the challenge that is placed before us by our ideas about God is that everything comes from God. Everything is a manifestation of godliness. Now, we believe the Kabbalists believe that can be corrupted by the Sitra Achra, by the other side, such that the sparks of light are caught in this morass of darkness. And the challenge that Abraham, our ancestor, placed before us, at least in this interpretation of the Ramban and in the interpretation of the Kabbalists, is that even in the morass, even dealing with the klipot and the sitra achra, the muddy materialistic world in which we live, from which so much of the light and the sparks of holiness are covered in darkness, that our job, just like our ancestor Abraham, was to be able to pick our way through that darkness, and even through the evil, find our way to understand God's presence in everything and all around. It's a very difficult challenge. It's very hard. It's part of why Ramban probably wanted it to stay as a secret only great rabbis would know. But we know that the Kabbalists who came after him shared this concept. And I'm glad that they did, because what does it mean to be blessed bakal? It means that even when times are hard, even when we see manifestations of evil in the world, that doesn't mean God is not present. It is sometimes hard to understand how God is present. It is sometimes difficult to find the blessing in the difficult times. But ultimately, because the world will never be as perfect or as agreeable as we want it to be, what Judaism gives us is a great gift to find our way to that holiness, to find our way to call, to that manifestation, that ultimate infinite manifestation of holiness, and to use our spiritual practices, our prayer, our meditation, our Torah study to trace that path back to that ultimate projector of Kodesh, of holiness into the world. So even when this material world around us is disagreeable, we know that in our souls and in our spirits and in our hearts and in our community and in our sacred spaces and in our Torah study and in our doing of mitzvot, that we can still find the blessings, that we, like our ancestor Abraham, can be blessed bakal, with all of it, with everything that's going on in the world. May we all find our way to that source of blessing, to that sense of blessing, to that source of holiness today in a world that does not seem to be agreeable. And may the world that seems much more agreeable, the world of redemption, come quickly for the Jewish people, for all people who find themselves caught in terrible evil. And may this Shabbat that we are about to start together give us that sense of the ultimate Shabbat, the time of the ultimate redemption of the world. We can all live in peace and privilege, and we can all feel that we are blessed bakal in everything. Shabbat Shalom.